Welcome back. It's the second part of our three-part webinar series where we're looking at the 12 lies that entrepreneurs tell themselves that keep them busy, burnt out, and broke. On our last webinar, I asked that you take some notes, and hopefully you've got these to hand for those who are compliant among us. But just in case you haven't, I think it's always helpful to repeat the content of our learning, as I talked about in terms of repetition being the mother of success. And so I'm going to quickly run through the 4 lies again. In lie number 1, we heard about Carol and her small business, where she was stressing over the need to learn how to run her business, but actually hadn't taken the time to get really serious about her desire to help her clients. What did you take from this lesson? Where do you need to focus more acutely on the desire and less on the how-to, the structure of your business? In number 2, we heard that it's not true that it takes money to make money, and that to be creative means marketing with a very little or sometimes even no budget. I forgot to share this story with you on the last webinar, and I think this one is really a good one because I had a lady who came to see me recently, and the reason she came to see me was she saw me speaking and I was talking about spend on marketing. She had heard at a previous seminar that it was normal to be spending thousands per month in small business on marketing. And as a result of that, she was spending £3,000 per month, and the results were pretty abysmal, to be honest. In fact, no, they were worse. They were dreadful. You were just, oh my goodness, she'd been doing this for months. So I just wanted to sit this lady down and love her and say, right, let me help you here because you are wasting money. £3,000 out of only a little over £10,000 per month turnover is just crazy. So I spent a day with her. We looked at how she could make it that a fraction of the cost that it was. And she took it, she ran with it, and she also understood lie number 3, which she hadn't done until that point, which is we just need to get our name out there. We need to be known. People need to know who we are and what we do. Nope, you don't need to get your name out there. You need to get your relevance out there. You need to reach your audience with something that they know exactly who you are and what you're offering, and it matches with them and their need. I have a popular course that looks at how to market to the pains and desires of your clients, and it gets behind the scene of what looks like it's going to work and what looks like it isn't going to work. But we then go right down into the nitty-gritty of the psychology. And being an NLP practitioner, it's really important for me to be using the psychology that is so readily available to us now in books and online, but I've put it into a really simple course that was very popular over the past year. So you'll note I mentioned in the last webinar about Facebook. I want you to stop pressing the ever so enticing boost button. So for those of you who are out there who've been doing that, today I want you to stop, because unless you're linking that to your product or your service and enticing people to take a sale, all you're doing is trying to put your name out there. So can we agree that we just stop that from here on in? And the last lie was that experience will benefit me. And again, you heard how 12-year entrepreneurs had to make massive changes in their business for it to start working. So this advice isn't just for startups. It isn't for people who have only been in business a few weeks or a few months or maybe are in their first year. It's for people who've been in business a long time. I've recently met with somebody who's been in business over 20 years, is not making money, pays their own employees, but at the end of the month has nothing left for herself. How crazy is that? She's decided right now she doesn't want to work with me because she's just going to go on her own. And today you're going to find out why that is not a great idea. But there are people struggling, and people need to learn how to reach out and ask for help. So as we move on today and we start thinking about the next 4 lies, I want you to look at your business and how it would benefit from the antidotes that we've shared so far. And if you've had any aha moments, make sure that you write them down and you get them in your diary and just take action. Move your business forward, move yourself forward, Because I can imagine for many of you, you're nudging up against fear. And you know when fear is there, there's something that you need to be pushing through. So I'm going to encourage you to do that today. So make a note of all your lessons and all your learns and start putting some actions in place today. So a welcome back to those who managed to make it to the last webinar and are back here again today. Good on you. I know that some of you were a few minutes late into the webinar, so I think it's worthwhile me just reintroducing myself. I'm Yvonne Williams, the Mindset Coach. I'm a 12-year entrepreneur, business coach, and I've dedicated my business to helping others be great at running their business. But more than that, I'm also helping people take back control of their mental and emotional well-being by being fully aware of their thoughts and emotions and the actions that they're taking. Outside work, I love to travel. So I'm going to share some photographs with you that just tell a story about me and my life and my business. So I love food. I love going to fantastic places. I also love books. I love being around people who stretch me. And that's why I work with a US coach and I spend as much time as I can in that gorgeous palm tree place called California. If you've never been, oh my goodness, it's beautiful and you need to go. I want to thank you to the ladies who are on here who've dialed in from California. I'm not sure whether you're on, I can't see all the names in my list, but I'm hoping that Christine and Anna and Nicole are all on here because it'd be great to just say hi to you. These are ladies that I've met whilst I've been over in the US, and they have supported me in growing my business, and they've been clients of mine and they're now friends. And they're great as sounding boards for so many things that I go through in business, and I'm eternally grateful for them. So this is my husband and I in the desert earlier this year, and that's again in California, and me doing a little bit of hiking one day. I've appeared on the Lorraine show. That's me with a client, fine dining at the Devonshire Arms at Bolton Abbey, and we watched as somebody came in on a helicopter. It was super exciting. I love nothing more than getting up into the hills and being outdoors. And this last photograph really just show the inner youth in me, because I love surfing and being out in the sea and just having a great time, kicking back a little bit. So if I'm not in the UK, I tend to be in California, and I've got a couple more trips planned this year, which is super exciting. As we move on to the next lie, what I want you to start thinking about is the structure of your business. How much freedom does it give you? And how would you benefit from applying the antidotes that we've gone through so far and the ones I'm going to share with you today? Because if you're having aha moments, what I don't want you to do is to let that thought slip. We have tens of thousands of thoughts every day, and some of them we do have to grab and write down and promise ourselves to take action. So at the end of this webinar, what I would ask of you is take an action to put anything that you thought about into your diary straight away, not tomorrow or next week. And if you're a stationery lover, then go and buy a beautiful diary or a notebook and pen and use it and treasure it. Anybody who knows me knows that I absolutely love stationery. I love pink ink in my pens. I love high quality, beautiful paper that when you touch it, you can feel it. And it's soft and silky, and my fountain pen just glides over the paper. For me, that is really important because it allows me to have special time with that notebook. It's like I go to it and it's like a treasure trove of thoughts and ideas and promises and dreams and goals. So I do sometimes have notepad envy, I must admit. I did see a client recently who brought a notepad and I was so coveting it. It was a momentary thing, but I did look at it and go, oh my goodness, that I so need that. But if you're not a notepad person, make sure that you're taking notes on your phone or on your iPad. And just make sure that you have a method for following up on yourself. The other tool that I do use that is electronic is a project management tool called Asana, and it is fantastic. And especially if you're working with clients or you're collaborating with a team, it's really useful because you can all see who's doing what and you don't have to keep bouncing emails back between one another. So do you remember the advert that I shared with you in the last webinar, and it was regarding an oil change? I know it wasn't the sexiest of things, but it was the best I could come up with. There was no mention of price in the second advert. I'm hoping you recall that. But yet it converted massively more than the £19.99 oil change. You see, when you figure out that not everyone is motivated by price, it can liberate you in your business. And that's where the next lie comes in. Lowering prices boosts business. The problem when you're always seeking clients on price comes when you're in a place of lack. And a lack of paying clients means that you project that issue on the world and assume that everyone else is in lack and they can't afford your product or your service. And it's simply not the case. If I were to go to Kensington, for example, and set up a discount store, it would likely be a flop because the customers who shop there are not only willing but expect to pay a top price for exclusivity, quality, experience, service, loyalty, and affiliation to the brand, and so much more. So when we start looking at lowering our prices, what we're saying is we are willing to allow customers in who want to pay less and are less concerned about the quality or effectiveness of our product or service. The biggest fear that most of us have when we start our businesses is that we might not make it. And because of this, we hear statistics such as 80% of businesses fail in 5 years, and things that people say about, oh, it's risky, you'll lose your shirt, oh, don't do it, you don't want to go for some unproven thing, just stay with your secure job. And I understand all that, and in fact, I heard them all, and I'm assuming some of you heard that too. But remember this, your fear is not your customer's fear. The minute that we start our small business, we are vulnerable to money fears. And so we have to work hard on ensuring that we have the right money mindset to be an entrepreneur. It's not hard to slide unconsciously into a scarcity mentality, and I will admit I've been there myself on occasions. But I work super hard now on myself and with my clients to ensure that they're never afraid about having enough money. And as we do with all of the beliefs that we hold, we start projecting a belief to our external world, and we then project it on our customers, and we'll say things like, look, they've got money issues too, they're scared of spending, that's why they're not buying from me. And that is not ever going to be helpful in terms of growing your business. So the lesson here is not to project your own struggle onto your customers, because it's only going to compound the errors that you're making. The customer is not struggling with paying your prices. You just think that's the case. And somehow you've got to learn this truth and get it deep down in your soul, because low prices are not the answer. And having gone through 12 years now of upping prices, I can assure you every time I up my prices, I get a better quality of client. I get people who show up and they do what they're required to do to turn their businesses round. And there isn't a problem with people paying. The people who price themselves out because they think I'm too expensive, I know they won't be action takers. They'll continue being busy and being unproductive and generally unprofitable in their businesses. And this brings me on to a second business truth within lowering prices boosts your business being a lie. And it is that people find money for what they want to afford. I've recently just been away camping, and it's one of the things I love doing. I love going back to nature and being near trees and open fields. But there is a caveat to that, in that I like to be in something that's comfortable, warm, has facilities, and is like a home from home. And as I look around the campsite that we've been to, I noticed that there are some extremely expensive motorhomes and caravans and even trailer tents. And, you know, looking around the campsite, there was very little, probably worth less than £10,000, which is about $15,000. And I'd say the majority of them were nearer the £20,000 to £30,000 mark. So that alone shows that people buy what they want and they'll pay what it costs. So the trick is not to give them something that they can afford, it's to sell something that they really want. And for you as a business owner, it's a matter of changing your focus and focusing on exactly what the customer wants. Then focus on what you can add, and to address that further and deeper on every occasion so that you're getting nearer and nearer to that want or that desire. And that will allow you to keep your prices rising along with the value that you're adding to your customer. And the good news is that once you convert from a low price focus to a strong price focus where you're delivering quality that people are willing to pay for, your business will thrive. And the truth that people pay for what they want will be proven, and the truth will then set you free. So I'm going to ask you now to make an assumption about how your business is going to run going forward. And that assumption is you need to raise your prices and be willing to do that regularly. But how exactly do you raise those prices? Well, if you were to raise them by a small marginal amount, maybe 5 to 10%, you may get away with it without having to add any extra value, but that's not what I'm talking about here. As a business owner, you should be constantly seeking to add more value in the service or the product that you're offering as your proposition. And increasing value helps you and your customer become happy and content with that new adjustment of price. Because there's always a way that you can raise your value. And if your business is going to thrive, then you need to continually be adding value to your customer. So how can you raise the value of what you deliver? That needs to be a question that you're visiting at least once a week, but daily. So as I'm looking at what I offer to my clients, I'm constantly going back and saying, what is it they're struggling with? How can I help them? What good quality content do I need to share? What skill do I need to learn to be able to be most effective when I'm coaching people? What new skill do I need to learn that is the market trend for, I don't know, building online customer relationship management systems, or what else could it be? Websites or auto responders, those kind of things. I'm constantly looking at how to be really good at those things and collaborate with other people around me who can add value. So don't try and run a business while you're letting your mind go to sleep on this issue. Often, if you give in to money fears, your heart overrules your mind, and the louder your heart pounds, the harder it is to hear yourself think. But thinking about adding value is always the answer. I'm going to repeat that. Thinking about adding value to your clients is always the answer. You can keep your creative thinking alive by challenging yourself, and also people who work with you or for you. Get them to think of ways that they can add value to your customers. It could be part of your weekly meeting with your teams, or it could be part of your weekly meeting with your coach. Keep a suggestion box. Ask your clients what do they want, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are coming in and buying services or products from you. And when you're increasing value, one of the first helpful hints that I would want to give is that people spend money on what they can see and not what they can't see. So when you're going to increase your fees, put some money into improving what people are going to be seeing. So your customer should walk away going, wow, the place looks great. You've made over that area, and it starts to feel to the client like you're progressing, and people like to be part of a success story. And if you can also improve the look of what you're selling. So for me, my improvement is in reinventing my website, my marketing materials, so that whatever goes out looks sharp and it's reflecting my brand values. But you can also do invisible things that enhance value for your customer and that can also justify that price increase. So for example, if your employees are dedicated to innovative, continuous improvement, they're going to be better at the service they deliver than they were like a few weeks or months or years ago. And everybody admits it. I deliver the product better. I have better people. I know I'm doing more. I provide better service than I used to, simply because I'm constantly improving. So even if you don't do a great deal overtly, you're still providing more value than you were a year ago, just by the fact that you've learned a lot more about your customers. And that spells value to your customer. This, by the way, is different from the experience line that we talked about earlier that says experience is enough to run your business better, because it isn't. You must grow in consciousness. You must make your experience be about raising value for your client. And when you stay alert to raising value, you'll always get better at serving your customer. And then you can charge accordingly. And if you don't, they won't appreciate the value. A little story for you here. I put a number of dates out for retreats. As many of you know, I run retreats for business owners and stressed out executives. And I put my highest ever prices, and I was wobbling about this because it was like so much more than I'd charged before. And I put this advert out and I launched it to my target market. I went out to my list. So a lot of the people that I was targeting to were already familiar with my story. Some of them had bought from me before. And I got an inquiry for someone who was totally brand new. And what happened was she'd been shared the message that I put out in the post. And her friend had thought of her and thought, oh, that's so for this lady's husband. So she rang me and said, it's my husband's 40th birthday. I'm thinking of buying him a retreat for his birthday. And she ended up getting her credit card out there and then and booked it. And it was a few £1,000s. And I was like, wow, that really worked. I was really not expecting that I'd get bookings so quickly. And when her and her husband came on retreat, interestingly, I had a chat with her towards the end of the 2 days together. And she said, Yvonne, one of the reasons I booked you, I've been looking for this for a while, but everybody else who was out there was so much cheaper than you, and I thought they've got to be rubbish at what they're doing. And as soon as I saw you and I saw how you presented yourself and I saw the wording, you really knew our situation. And for that reason, I handed over a few £1,000s to work with you for 2 days. That blew me away because that was such a lesson for me. And even now we're still in contact. I still coach her husband. He's a very successful quantity surveyor. He's doubled his business in size from $500,000 to $1 million in the year since I worked with him. And he attributes the time we had together as being the catalyst for that. So don't think that your prices will exclude everyone. In fact, higher prices might include people who otherwise would not buy from you. So what you may be asking is, how do I release that fear, Yvonne? How do I move myself forward? I'm interested to hear how I might charge more, but I'm still crippled with this fear that I'm going to lose clients. And I'm not here to say that you won't lose clients. You may lose some. But what you will do is you'll educate the clients who stay with you, and you'll encourage new clients to come to you by virtue of the value that you're offering. I've worked on this myself, and every time I've increased my prices, I have felt like I'm adding much better value, and that has spurred me on to deliver even better value going forward. And people then also started to value my time, because I just assumed that low prices were good for them and were appealing to them. But maybe it was because price was always the first thing that they asked about and just assumed it was the most important thing on their mind. But when I started increasing prices or charging as opposed to offering free seminars or free webinars, where people would often be late or they'd take phone calls during the talks I was doing. When I started to charge more, interestingly, the attendance was better, people showed up, were more committed, and that's why you've all paid to come on this webinar, because you know the value of investing in yourself. And so you'll have turned up, you'll have delivered, you'll be doing your homework. I know that because you are valuing this. If I'd given you this for free, the likelihood is you probably wouldn't turn up. There are some people who aren't on this webinar today, and the reason they're not here is they said, we're not paying to come on your webinar. Why don't you just give it for free? I don't know how you can justify it, Yvonne. You know, it's a webinar. It's no big deal. The thing is, I've spent hours preparing the content for today for you all. And I want you to know that that has happened. I don't want to pretend that it's something I've just thrown together over a couple of hours, because my webinars carry the power to change lives, shift thinking, and they're hopefully spot on for what you're needing right now. And for what you've invested in it, if it has massive returns in your business, then that's fantastic. You've also just been given a glimpse of how I work with people when I'm working one-to-one or in small coaching groups. And that hopefully will be something that you might be interested in. But I haven't given this webinar out for free because I need to ensure that the people I'm working with are going to invest in themselves first, and that they'll step up and do everything that they need to do to get their business working. I need people who listen and have hunger. And you need the same from the clients that you're going to work with. I'm not a freebie. I'm not somebody who can live with no income, and nor are you. So you need to get to the point where you feel comfortable and happy with charging for what you're really worth. So I'm sharing with you now the inside of a coffee shop that I'm guessing most of you are very familiar with. Maybe not this particular one, but you're certainly familiar with the cult-like following that this particular coffee shop has created. Starbucks is currently a very, very visible refutation of the low price lie, and they're teaching us all a lesson. So why don't you go into Starbucks and have a look at exactly how they're doing business, the experience they're creating, the atmosphere, learn from it, because you can do a version of Starbucks in your business too. Perhaps more than any company, Starbucks has shown you that you can raise prices on a very basic product, which, let's be honest, is just coffee, milk, and a few biscuits. And if you do that creatively, people will not only pay more, but they'll become loyal to you. And that's where the cult-like following has come from with Starbucks. Unlike the greasy little coffee shop on the corner, Starbucks does not project poverty or scarcity. And in fact, when you walk into a Starbucks, you feel like you're going into somewhere that's classy, tasteful, and high value. There's beauty in the design and atmosphere. Did you hear that? Beauty. And I want you to add beauty to your business. Add beauty to your price too. You go to Starbucks for the whole experience thing. You buy the experience, not just the coffee and the milk and the biscuits. And you know that people go there and hang out as long as they possibly can because they just love hanging out in somewhere where they feel like they're treating themselves. Your rational mind will say, this is just coffee and milk. I could have put my own together and bought it and sat on a park bench instead of coming into Starbucks. And you'll probably find yourself £5, £6, £7 better off if you do that. But you have to wait in line as well. And that is like you saying, it makes me feel good to come to the front of the queue and be served. So always sell to your customer's emotional side. The purchases are emotional anyway. And although your customer may put up a good show of talking price with you, please don't be misled by this. Their desire is that they're looking tough-minded on price in front of you, but actually they want value. And so don't let this be your slogan, the best quality, the best service, the best prices. That slogan will drag your business down. I want to work with hundreds of businesses like yours and teach them that this is one big lie. Lowering your prices never boosts your business. The sixth lie is you have to be tight-fisted. One of my all-time favourite business coaches is the amazing Tony Robbins. And if you've seen his recent documentary that came out on Netflix, I'm Not Your Guru, you'll also have seen that he is a real philanthropist. He's looking not only to build his business, but he's looking constantly to see what he can give. And that was one of the reasons he hooked me in, because there's a lot of people out there talking about personal development. But what I loved about Tony was that he put his money where his mouth is, and he went out and he started gifting meals to people who couldn't afford to feed themselves. And this has now grown and morphed into something way bigger than him. And every meal that we as his clients donate, he matches it with his own personal wealth. It's something that I really feel strong about, and I love being part of buying into his products and his services, because I know that it's going beyond what he does. Some of the biggest charitable givers in history were also very successful entrepreneurs. They didn't give money because they made so much money. No, what happened was they became givers because it was inherent to them, that it was in them to give before they expected to receive. And it's a bit like the sowing of the seed. Whatever you plant and you plant into your business, you will reap rewards and fruits further down the line. But giving is such a great way to grow your business. I just think about the times I hang out with my friends. I love it if I go for a spa day, that my friends will think nothing of saying, okay, I'm going to have a glass of champagne. Or when we go out for dinner together, at the end of the evening, they don't tot at what they've had individually. They just put into the pot and say, yeah, let's just split it. And what tip can we give? What can we do to say thank you for the person who served us? So they will give generously to self, but they also want to give generously to others. There was a few months ago a viral post going around on Facebook, I don't know if you saw it, of somebody who'd gone into, I think it was a cafe or some kind of diner in the US, and they'd written £1,000 tip for the lady who'd served them. She'd not shared any of her story and so on, but what happened was she went out on social media and she said, I really was so broke, I had no money, I did not know how I was going to pay my rent, and that tip, it set me up and it allowed me to have choices again. And so giving, the person who gave has planted something so huge in her now, she will go on and she will re-gift that to other people. What I see with a lot of small business owners is that they start off with really good intention. Intention that they're going to manage their money well and control costs, keep themselves accountable. All great assets for any business owner. But what happens is that over time that morphs into a falsehood, and it changes from a place of frugality and good custodianship to one of being tight, which means it's going from smart to stupid. It takes on the deep fear and anxiety that comes with scarcity and mistrust. Then we see frugality on the dark side, and that's when we see this negative mentality which is tight-fisted and blocks so many avenues for creativity and growth. The best way to ensure it doesn't happen to you is to adopt the operating principle we call open hand. It serves you every day and it'll keep your business growing. So let me give you a little bit more insight into what that means. If I give you a metaphor, hopefully it will help you understand the philosophy that attracts customers at an amazingly fast rate. Imagine you're in a sandbox and you're reaching down to scoop up some sand. You want as much sand as you can get. So you keep your hand as open as you can, because an open hand holds the most sand. But look what happens the minute you start to worry. That's when you start losing your sand, or that someone might knock it from your hand and you clench your hand and you squeeze it tight. Notice what that does to the volume of sand. It spills out the side of your hands and you have less and less. And the further you close your hand, the less you have. The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. And that's the problem with being tight-fisted. Think of that now as your money. The money that your business has to work with. The more tight-fisted you are, the less you'll have. So the object is to learn the reverse approach. And this is where good things happen, because in the open hand approach, the sand flows both in and out of your business. And the more open flow you maintain and the more dynamic your business can be, because when you trap it, it's bad, but flow and energy is good. Here in the UK, we have a department store called John Lewis's. And the John Lewis store has really built their business on this open hand approach. Whilst many of their competitors were tight-fisted, John Lewis's had really amazing return policies, and they've looked after their customers and gone the extra mile so that they stand out as being the flagship organisation when it comes to department stores. Their competitors, however, whilst they were being tight-fisted, made people jump through hoops when they wanted to return products, and they treated people as though they were criminals. Something to return? Put your hands up, we're suspicious of you. But the word spread that John Lewis's were different, and that you weren't just going to buy a product, you were buying into an experience. And because of their open hand policy, what it allowed them to do was that they grew their business. And also, John Lewis's, you'll recall, have amazing Christmas adverts. I'm sorry for our friends over in the US who won't have heard of John Lewis. Maybe something like Nordstrom would be something that's similar. But what happened was John Lewis's has built their reputation on amazing customer service, word of mouth, and then they've been really unique as to how they advertise themselves. So many business owners don't see that being stingy with a customer on a refund policy or not responding to complaints shuts off any future windfall profits in the name of milking the pennies out of this one, because it's an isolated deal. But customers don't recall or act in isolation. So that what I mean by recall is they have a memory. They look back and think, well, last time I worked with this company or that individual, that entrepreneur, they treated me like this. And so they have long memories. And they're not going to be duped twice by somebody. And they're also part of networks. And if you look at one customer and you treat them badly, how many other people are going to learn about that? We all know the experience of dreading what the mechanic will say about fixing our car when we hear him say, we fixed it right away and there won't be any charge for that. We value your business here and we appreciate the opportunities you have given to serve you, and something that we're not like this, we're not going to charge you for. Now, I've had that happen to me a couple of times recently, and it made a big impact on me. My car was in for a number of things, but they found a little problem, they tweaked it, they sorted it, and they just charged me the standard fee. And I have a little camper van, and it's about 10 years old now, so things are starting to go wrong on it. And I'm always kind of going, oh no, how much is it going to cost me when I take it in? Because I'm frightened it's going to be a big bill. You know, if it's a few £100s, that's fine. But if it's a big bill, I'm worried. But there are a few occasions that we've had little things wrong with it, like windscreen wiper blades that just needed replacing, things like that. They've done it and they've not charged me, which is amazing. But the thing is, I'll always go back to that garage because the open hand method works. And so next time I have a problem with my car, I'm going to go to the garage who treated me fairly last. And your clients are the same. When people have a problem or something that needs solving that you can provide a solution to, they're going to come to you first. So let's look at a way that we can be less tight-fisted and more open-handed. There was a situation that I was made aware of. I wasn't involved in this, but I'm aware of the case where there was a gentleman who was running a restaurant and he was given some advice by his consultant to offer some freebies to any people who came into his restaurant. And it was as simple as complimentary dessert or coffee at the end of their meal. The problem with this was the restaurant owner found that that was a step too far for him, and he said, look, let me explain. I've got £50 coming in for the table, and by the time I factored in the cost of my staff, the food, the chef, the rent costs and so on, I won't be making very much money out of that $50 because it's really tight. So to give something away is not going to help me. Big mistake, because what he was not realizing was what we've got here on the right hand side, which is customer lifetime value. And in order to really see how your customer lifetime value can affect your business, what you need to do is stand from two different viewpoints. The first one is, can we get a repeat customer from this person? So by giving something for free on this occasion, or maybe it's an ongoing offer, will that encourage that person to come back again? If not, could it do something else, which is a repeat referrer? It might be someone who says, actually, I'm really happy to recommend you because I thought you were really great. I'll tell you a situation that happened to me not that long ago. I went into a local restaurant. It had maybe only been open 3 or 4 months. I took my parents in. It was my mum's birthday, and it was a lovely opportunity to treat them to beautiful food. And the food, I've got to say, was fantastic, apart from my mum's meal. Now, when it came out, it was really apparent that this meal had come out of the freezer because the middle of it was still solid frozen. So we called the attention of the waiter and very apologetically almost said, well, look, we're really sorry, but it's still frozen inside. So what then happened was he disappeared off in the back, and about 10, maybe 15 minutes later, it seemed like ages because we'd all finished eating. My mum was like, no, everyone else must eat. You must have your food whilst it's warm. Eventually this meal came out and it was not much better, and she ended up leaving most of it. It was now like dry and overcooked, and it was really not good. It had clearly been in a microwave. And so what happened at the end of that meal, when we came to pay the bill, I thought there would have been a conversation, and that the chef or the restaurant maitre d' would have come over and said, very sorry about this, and either given us the meal for free, or not everyone's meal, of course, just this individual meal, or given us a complimentary bottle of wine, but absolutely nothing, no apology. And that restaurant, I never went back again, and I now drive past it. It's on my route towards Manchester as I leave home, and it's boarded up, and they went out of business probably in less than a year of it opening. How sad. You know, they could easily have turned that around, because the rest of us had a great experience, but because they were so tight-fisted, they weren't willing to be open-handed and create a customer that would come back another time. And that brings me on to the next point, which is refunds. Being stingy on refunds and being tight-fisted means that you are missing out on a major insight about how the universe is set up. Humanity is a network of interconnected beings. We don't all live in isolation, yet the tight fist treats each customer as though he lives in a closed-off cave in the middle of nowhere and won't talk to anyone, as if he can't refer anyone, like he'll just walk away and never tell anybody about what happened. But when you commit to being open-handed as a business owner, you think differently, and you teach people to behave differently that work in your business. I see that everybody is connected to everybody else, and anyone on this planet is just a phone conversation or an email or a Facebook post away from telling someone else what experience they've had of you, your product or your service. And the whole belief that people will take advantage of me, or that I might lose my shirt from inner programming, is from inner programming of scarcity and of fear. And it's quite often a projection of my own business feelings of scarcity on the customer. Sometimes it can be a projection of my own personal mistrust or fear on that customer, and unless I'm willing to correct it, it will be the fatality of my business. So open hand benefits go much further than we think. It's more than just a good business strategy, but it's actually a way of living, and most people think that they're just in business to make profit, not realising that the true potential of their business is to grow into so much more than that. It can grow into a way of life, an ideal scenario, and it can be that nirvana that we're all searching for. The seventh lie is that customers are hard to figure out. You know, they're like, you can never know what they're going to do next. They're like somebody that you would just never be able to get your head around. In fact, they may even be from another planet. That's why business is so hard and so stressful, because you definitely cannot figure customers out. Wrong, 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 wrong. None of that is true, guys. Customers are someone that you can learn about and understand. And the more specific you get about the customer whom you're working with, the more likely you are to understand the thought patterns and processes that they're going through when they're thinking about making any type of purchase. Customers' buying behaviour is not hard to figure out or anticipate, and if you apply enough brain power and study, you can figure this out, and you can figure out how to fill your business up with happy, quality customers. Not just any customers. We want good customers, ones that repeat business, refer you to other people. They're not one-hit wonders who shop on price or premium and then disappear and never see them again. But all of this starts with you. You've got to be curious enough to make a science out of studying your customer. From the minute that he or she walks through the door, it's straight away. You need to know what is it that you can help them with. When you find yourself saying that customers are hard to figure out, I want you to catch that thought and grab it and start thinking about this story. Successful coaches in sports actually have a repeating of philosophy that is about the will to win, not being the most important thing. Actually, it's the preparation of being able to win. And so knowing your customer is preparing to win is what I want you to start remembering. The minute you begin telling yourself the lie, then I want you to stop yourself and come back to this truth. For you to really succeed in business, the relationship has got to be like a love affair. So let's begin with how the two of you met. Knowing how the customer found you is gold, because if you can track it, it can shape where your marketing and promotion money goes and direct it towards attracting more people who are like-minded. So if most of your people were coming off the internet, then let's say the platform Facebook, I use that myself, then I'm going to spend more money on Facebook than I am advertising in the Yellow Pages, which I believe is kind of a bygone era, and nobody looking for my services, I believe, will be looking in the Yellow Pages. I may be wrong, but I ain't going to start trying that theory just yet. So most businesses have gold right under their noses, but they fail to mine that gold. And instead, they become random businesses reaching out in random ways to random customers. And it's just, oh my goodness, it's so frustrating when I see businesses are operating like this. Most business people that I coach have no clue about this, not in the beginning anyway. The owners have no clue as to how many customers they have, what their buying preferences are, how many times they've been to them. Or the business is so small, they know all of that stuff but don't know how to do anything with it whatsoever. One of the most critical elements of your business is getting a mailing list and talking to your clients and consistently following up. I read a brilliant book by a gentleman called Ryan Dice who talks about the theory of how you should indoctrinate somebody into your business through email and then engage with them. And then you go through this process that eventually people are ready to buy because you've done all the things, you've put all the ingredients into the recipe in the right order such that your customer is ready to buy from you. So the greatest asset in your business is not what skills you bring, your experience, your time, your money. None of that is your most important asset. The biggest thing that you need to do is show up with absolute energy. And it's not just energy for bouncing around like Tigger. I'm talking about mental energy, resilience, strength, assurance. That place will direct and determine the absolute success of your business. But if you put that same mental energy into worry, doubt, fear, all you do is spend your days firefighting, reacting from one thing to the next to the next. Whereas the smart and savvy entrepreneur, they step back. They look at what they need to be concentrating on to get value to the customer, to make the most of their day, and to be proactive at every single opportunity. So whatever you place your attention on in your business will grow. So if you're placing your attention on lack, you'll get more lack. If you're placing your attention on serving customers, you'll get more customers. Think about the dot-com craze. So there were loads of businesses that came out of particularly Silicon Valley in the US. In the UK, we also had places just outside London that were deemed to be the UK Silicon Valley. And those businesses, a lot of them went bust. Economists and business strategists have now looked at why those businesses failed, and the consensus really is that the businesses focused too much on the technical and not enough on the customer themselves. What was it the customer wanted? There was one business right in the heart of all this that took a very different approach. It's a business you'll know of, and I would guarantee that every single person on this webinar has not only bought once from them, but multiple times. That business is Amazon. And Amazon has made their business revolve around their customer information. Every day I get an email from Amazon telling me that a new book has just been released, or that something has gone into print that I looked for a year ago. I've ordered kitchen utensils from Amazon. I order gifts for people who don't live nearby to be delivered by Amazon. And if I need something urgently and I don't have the time to go shopping, Amazon Prime is my friend, because I know it can be ordered today and it will arrive tomorrow. Amazon, however, have used information as their biggest asset. They've also put a lot of other businesses out of business because they've realised that the marketplace is changing. The marketplace is now online. We are having this webinar online by the power of technology that I don't even begin to understand and sometimes get frustrated by, but you're here purely by technology. And if you're not harnessing that technology to gather information, communicate with your client, and be ahead of your competition, then you're missing out on a trick. So I'd like to ask you, what capture information do you have for anybody who works with you? If you go out networking, what information do you capture? Is it just their contact details, or do you find out a little bit more about them and how your product or service might be useful for them? I recently met a florist, and she, like many other florists, is struggling. And I can see exactly what she needs to do to turn her business around. But right now, she's just in that head fog place of doing it all herself. But what would help her would be to capture information on the clients who are walking through the door. So let's say, for example, it's my 10th wedding anniversary soon. And if I walk through the door of the florist, I want her to ask me what my flowers are for, when the occasion is, etc. So if I was buying flowers for us as a couple, because I would buy it for us, I wouldn't buy it for my husband, that'd be a bit weird. But if I was buying for us as a couple as a celebration thing, to have beautiful flowers in the house on the anniversary weekend, I would want that florist to capture that information and ensure that next year she's got enough information in order to contact me in advance and ensure that she gets my business, that I don't go to another florist that's either nearer or is doing better marketing than she's doing. How many of us actually do that, proactively go out and ensure that we are one step ahead of our clients in terms of when they'll need us next? I'd like you just to ponder on that before we move on to the fourth lie of today, lie number 8, and we'll see what that is going to bring for you and your business. Lie number 8 is very harmful, probably one of the most harmful of all the lies that we tell ourselves. And I wanted to show you this cartoon because it really did sum up exactly what this lie is all about. Sometimes it's hard to open your hand, but you need to. This lie is, I don't need any help. Is that you? It's certainly been me in the past, and I have been the person trying to figure it all out without getting any outside help. And it was only when I went over to the US and got help from other coaches, I've invested in trainings and mentorship and coaching, consulting, that my business started to turn round. The difficulty with this lie is that it comes from a place of ego and pride, and it will massively affect with your business. If you want success, you've got to let your ego go, totally out the picture, because this business is not about you. It's all about you offering results or a product or a service to your client. That's it, the end of. Your client actually isn't that bothered about you. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. They just want the outcome. They don't want a new friend. They're wanting someone who's going to take them on a journey and get them the product or the service that they're looking for. So you've got to put your priorities in order, your eggs in order, as my dad would say to me. You have to put the success of your business ahead of your pride, and you've got to put the success of your business ahead of losing face or looking weak, because none of that's going to work. Another universal law is what you focus on expands. Whatever you direct your attention to in life will grow. We talked about that in the last section. So keep your eye on the prize, but don't go it alone. Oh my goodness. It's so much more fun when you're around great people. I love nothing more than jumping on a plane, landing down in San Diego, my friends, my business colleagues, the people I'm being coached by, meeting me and building my business with them. I love that feeling because I'm not alone. I'm not so full of pride that I think I've got all the answers. So let's set your ego aside for a moment and seek help, because that actually is strength. The people who are seeking help are the strong ones. It's the weak who don't seek help. Most people are not fully committed to their success. They only want to look good in front of other people. Well, if that's you, as an entrepreneur, you are going to look crazily bad on so many occasions. You've got to get over yourself, because you're going to mess up. Things are going to go wrong. I had a situation with the last webinar we did where I didn't get everybody online in time. We had a technical error. I got it wrong. My team got it wrong. They did their best to try and sort it out. But pride was never in the middle of all that. I wasn't looking going, oh my goodness, I'm such a fool, I got it wrong. I was thinking, I need to get this right. The solution was my focus on helping my clients. So I want to also ask you, why have you gone into this business? What is the real reason? Did you see the possibilities for a great life full of freedom and joy? Well, when you finally commit to building a life rather than make a living, you will get lots of help. It's really that simple. And the fact that you're on this webinar means that you're already reaching out and you're truly committed to your success. So I want to honour you in that, because not many people do this. In all walks of life, we can tell whether people are committed to something by whether they get help, whether they're reaching out, free of ego, free of their pride, and connecting with someone who has greater knowledge or wisdom than they've got. Think about the people who are top of their game in sport. Somebody like Andy Murray, who's just been at Wimbledon this year and has won. He has a coach. In fact, he's got 3 coaches that work with him. And the one that he believes has changed his game the most is a mindset coach. Now, why would Andy Murray, who is already seeded in the top 5 in the world, why does he need a coach? Because he's wise and he knows that we all slip. We end up on the side of the mountain, and that sometimes we need to reach out and get help from somebody who can view our situation without emotion. Many of us have either directly experienced addiction recovery or have a family friend who's been there. And knowing that those people really are not going to recover on their own. The only way that they're really going to get help is when they reach out and they work with someone else. And so many of the people that I work with are addicted to the 12 lies that I'm sharing with you. They make excuses. There are people who've emailed me to say that they weren't able to make the online webinars because of a whole plethora of reasons. One was, I can't be there on time. Well, we have replays, so they could have been here if they wanted to be, and it was specified in the copywriting that there would be follow-up videos available. So that's just an excuse. Interestingly, the people who wrote to me and gave me excuses are the ones whose businesses need the help the most. I want to share this next truth with you because this was my biggest aha moment. I so doubted this statement when it was shared with me, and someone said, all you need in business, Yvonne, is common sense. And I was like, well, I don't think that that is true, because it's not about common sense at all. I tried to run my business in the early days purely based on common sense, and it wasn't working. So I had to stand back and decide that I was sick of common sense, because I was not willing to work so many hours and be totally beholden to my business anymore. And guess what? When I reached out and got help from people who I knew nothing about until I decided I needed help and support, those people came to me at the right time. You might call it the law of attraction. I just knew I was looking for somebody who could give me non-common sense about how to run my business. And what I had to do was more than just look for help. I had to drop my ego, my pride, and decide that I was no longer the one who had all the answers. Because I was working so hard, I felt like I was the driver of the bus, the passenger of the bus, the maintenance person for the bus, the person who painted the bus on my journey in business. And that's just crazy. Like, I couldn't do all those things. So I really went and got help from people who could show me this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. But I went and got help from people who had succeeded in business. Not from my parents, not from my mates, not from my spouse, not from somebody at the pub. Somebody who'd actually grown a multi-million pound, or in my case, dollar business. And for me, it meant a massive investment. I had to get on a plane and go to America every few months. And that is financially a big commitment, but also time-wise, it's a big commitment to put all the steps in place at the helm, so to speak, to ensure that the business would run and carry on while I wasn't there. What happened when I started investing beyond myself was my time stretched. I also had more energy. I was more engaged with my business. The ideas were flowing, because actually when you start talking to someone as a coach, you know, I listen to lots of people talking about their ideas or goals for their business. And I know myself, when I talk to my coach, I become so much more creative, and it's like something from my subconscious kicks in and throws out ideas that I would never have articulated if I hadn't come out with the spoken word of what my ideas were that were festering, for want of a better phrase. Most small business owners fail because they're addicted to doing it on their own, and they've got this sink or swim mentality, and they wait years to become profitable. They try and do their accounts themselves. They don't take holidays because they're frightened that the business will go under. They feel lonely. No one understands them. People who they've had as friends for years start to drop off because all they're talking about is their business. Like that, there's just no balance in there. And when there's no balance, that's going to come across to your clients too. And so excuses for failure become an addiction. Well, my business is not working because I haven't got money. My business isn't working because my clients aren't ready for the service. They don't understand it. No, it's about you and your ego, and you need to get over yourself. And the sooner you get over yourself, the sooner you can start making some serious money. So there we are. We've done all 8 lies, another 4 remaining, and thank you for sticking with this. So many of you stayed on for a good proportion of today's webinar, and I know that you're busy, so finding the time to do this, I'm really grateful to you for how you're treating yourselves. Good on you. So we're going to be back again for the remaining 4 lies that are holding entrepreneurs back, keeping them broke, busy, burnt out. And if you've got any questions, by all means email me. But you will receive an email now with the second of the 3 sets of homework that I want you to complete. Try and get that done as soon as possible. If you can put a time aside now to do it, that would be great, or certainly in the next 2 days. And I really would love to see what your answers are and help you on moving you and your business to success. Thank you for your time.